That Note with Parker Whirling. Chris Hart.
Parker Whirling.
On That Note podcast from across the pond.
We're here.
Dude, I'm so excited to have you on. Chris, you have been a homie for a long time now, a couple of years, and I haven't seen you in literally a year at least.
Yeah.
Before right now.
Yeah.
Because you moved to London a year ago, right? When was the day that you moved? Do you remember?
We moved on March 1st. So
March 1st, so almost.
So when we're coming home from this trip, we're going to be flying and landing on like the exact same day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's very, very cosmic.
Yeah. A weird kind of coincidence to bring it back full circle like that.
It really is, man. But I'm excited to have you on the podcast. This is something we've talked about even way before you moved.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when I had it in Athens, it was a little hard to try to make that work. But now we're here and you're staying in my room, which works out pretty well because you can just come out and then, we get this fired up.
Yeah, we couldn't get it together and now I'm sleeping in your bed.
And now I can't get you away. But I'm excited not only to just have you on in general, but because yesterday, as we record this, you released your newest single, Selfish.
Yeah.
Which is a great song. I love it. Follows Always, your previous single.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
No
Hold on, we're going to cut that. I was like, I can do that without the notes. But yeah, so you released Selfish, and that follows Anywhere, your previous single, all coming together for your debut album.
Yeah.
Do you have a date yet for when that's coming out?
No.
Okay.
Just off the top of my head, but I'm releasing like one song a month to try to do it like the waterfall style, I guess, just to try to see if I can. Number one, it gives me time to finish it because they're not all finished yet. But I'm trying to get like one song a month up until June, and then the end of June, I'm gonna do the last two together, and then that'll be like the full album.
Right.
So it'll be like whatever the last Friday of June is. I don't have the date exactly, but
Yeah. That's good. I think that waterfall thing honestly works pretty well.
Yeah. I think it's cool. Like, like obviously I'd love to just like drop an album and be like, hey, everybody listen to this, but I just don't, you don't have as many fans yet that'll actually go and.
Yeah, they'll listen to like the first two songs, be like, oh, that's cool. And then forget about the rest.
Yeah. And like you put a lot of effort into making the songs and stuff. Like you want to give everybody the best chance of hearing them, I guess.
Exactly. And while we're at the top of the episode, we should mention the show that we are both playing. Eddie's Attic. Looking at you, look to camera. Please come to this show. It's going to be great. We're playing Eddie's Attic in Decatur on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. That's when the show starts.
Yeah.
Doors at 6. I appreciate you inviting me to open for you.
Yeah, man.
I'm a fan of your music, and I'm a big fan of your show. I've gotten to play with you. I actually played on drums with you last time, right before you left, which was a blast. So I'm excited to, to see you play again with Rizzo, friend of the pod.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you can get your tickets on eddie'sattic.com. Tuesday night, this episode will probably be out the day before.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I'm very curious about your practice routine for this show in particular, because you just got to the United States 2 days ago?
Yeah.
And you're playing with a band that lives here, not in London.
Mm-hmm.
So how have you guys practiced at all for this show?
We haven't yet.
Cool.
So that's really fun.
But they're all killers, so
that's why I'm like not freaked out about
right.
it. Yeah. Like I know, so it's Aaron and Troy and Seif, which is like his band. So I knew that I've played with them before. Like I sat in on a show that Aaron did. So I've seen them before. I've seen them play. Like I know that they have ridiculously good chemistry with each other. So I knew that like if I can because organizing a band is so difficult anyway. This is my first time playing with a band since the show that we did. I haven't done any band shows in London yet because it's just kind of harder to get people together like that. So I knew that they would be really solid together, and I know that they're pros also. Like they're all doing music full time. They're in like party bands and session musicians and stuff like that. So I knew I could trust them. So we're going to practice tomorrow afternoon and then Monday afternoon, and then just gonna go for it at the show. But I know that like they're gonna be on it anyway, and I'm just gonna be playing like in front of the unit behind me. Like,
Yeah,
they're gonna be fine.
Yeah, you got a really solid unit, as you said, backing you up, which does make it a lot easier to just focus on your own thing.
Right, and I made like, I've sent them all the songs that we're playing. I made demos of like the cover songs that I wanted to do, stuff like that. So I did a lot of like admin stuff in the background to kind of send it to them and be like, as long as you guys play it relatively like this, we should be fine. So,
yeah, I think that's a really big important thing about being a front man, or if you're just singing your songs and it's like under your name or something, and you have to have a band behind you, like you kind of have to be a leader in the sense of making things as easy for them as possible. Because otherwise, if you're not, I don't want to say holding their hand, because that sounds like demeaning, but more like if you're not just giving them all the opportunity to see what you want easy, then you're just kind of doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah, and it's like if you have like a vision for how you want the songs to sound and stuff like that, it's better to just give people like as much of a like roadmap, I guess, as you can.
You kind of have to have the clarity yourself.
Yeah.
In order to be able to translate it to them, you can't really expect them to be a mind reader.
Yeah, and like I all the songs that we're playing, like all the songs that, except for the covers, but like all the songs and demos that I've sent them, it's all produced by myself anyway. So like I know all the parts and stuff.
Right.
So it's all like, I didn't want to like, obviously there's always room for interpretation. Like they're killer musicians, so whatever they want to do is fine. Like I'm just gonna play the part that I have. But yeah, it's just like I know how all these parts are. Like you don't have to make up anything on the fly if you want to. Like I always offer, like I have lyric sheets with the chord changes and stuff like that if you want. Like I'm just gonna give you like a big folder full of stuff, and it's like if you want to just go ahead and peruse it and get yourself familiar with it, that's fine. So you don't have to do any legwork of like trying to pick stuff out by ear and things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that in London, you've moved there a year ago now, that it's a little harder to get people together. But also, your first year anywhere is kind of hard to insert yourself into a new scene completely. So what's your experience been like over the last year in a completely new town, completely new country, having to sort of start from scratch when it comes to finding a musical community?
It was a little bit, it was kind of challenging at first, but only because there's actually like a ton of options over there. There really is, like, there's like a pub on every corner over there, and they're so, like, they really love live music. They do, like, they appreciate it. So like every other pub has a stage. Like they like having people play there. So that wasn't really the issue of like finding a place to play. It was more so finding like the right place to go. Because there's some places where you go for like an open mic night or something like that, and it's not really, there's like singer-songwriter type open mic nights, and then there's ones where it's just like geezers doing bar covers. And it's I went to a few of those first, like kind of just trying to find them on the way. So it took a little while to find ones where like, like the young artist kids were hanging out or whatever, that were like writing songs, and people were like listening intently instead of singing, like Brown Eyed Girl or Mr. Brightside over.
Right.
Which is cool, it has
no
its place.
shade.
Yeah, no, great songs, but it's like they're you got to find the ones that are just go to where you're trying to go. So I found a good community of open mics in North London. So I live in East London right now, so I just do a little bit of a commute up there, and I liked it a lot. And I actually ended up I'm like hosting a few of them now.
Cool.
Which is cool. I've gotten like, so now I'm like kind of like in the scene a little bit, and that's what I was trying to do, because it took me a while to do that here, to find like the right place to go. And when because I tried Smith's,
Right.
and Smith's was like not quite my style, and then Eddie's is shout out to Eddie's, but Eddie's is really cool. But it's not, the open mic isn't always great for like networking, because it is so like music focused. Like they don't really give you a whole lot of time to like chat in between artists, and stuff like that. It's like, okay, you're down, you're up, everybody's
quiet.
Yeah, and that's great.
Right.
But it's not cool. It's not always great for like making friends and stuff.
Yeah.
So when I found like the Buteca one, I always just like, globbed onto it, and that was where we went. So it took me a while to find the one like that in London, but because because London, there is so many places to play, there's a lot more like opportunity for promoters and stuff to kind of come up, and there's always people organizing shows. So I did like 10 or 12 gigs last year in London.
Wow.
Which is like way more than I ever did here in Atlanta, just because there's so many places to go, and they're always putting on nights where it's like, oh, there's like 3 artists here, you can come and play for like 30 minutes. But because of that, I never really got a band together because it wasn't so much like an opening act and headliner. It was like a showcase type thing.
Oh, okay.
It's like you get up with your acoustic guitar, play your songs, and then the next person comes up.
I gotcha.
It's been cool. Like I met a lot of people. People have been very like receptive to my music, which is cool. I didn't know if being American, if people were gonna like not like me or like me extra, I guess. And it tends to go towards the latter of people are like people like, oh, you're American, cool,
nice. That's good. Yeah, you never really know.
Yeah, and I think there's like a certain type of American kind of like a stereotype that they're like, they bristle up against, but thankfully I'm not
loud,
like, rootin'
obnoxious.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, I can imagine that it would feel weird but that probably is maybe towards like the actual tourists that don't live there.
Definitely.
That are just there to, sightsee and all that.
Yeah, for sure. And so the joke is like, how can you tell people they're Americans? Like, oh, you can hear them coming. So that's kind of like what the the vibe is. So I think I surprise people when I go up and play. They don't expect me to have an American accent.
So now that you've been there for a year, you've gotten a little more comfortable finding your place in that music scene. If somebody asked you for advice because they were moving to a new place where they didn't know anybody, what kind of advice would you give them for like trying to meet people in a musical community?
So what I did was I was like looking at like hashtags on Instagram, like London music artists, London singers, or whatever like that, and I found a bunch of people who I like their stuff. I just sent them messages, and I was like, hey, like I like your music. Where do you play? Do you go to any open mic nights or whatever? Like, where are you, like, do you know any good promoters that are doing shows? That's like the easiest way for me, because then once you're there, then you can talk to other people, and then you just kind of build your network that way. And it was good for me because I already had songs written. Like, it took me a while to do that here, because it took me like my whole life to decide that I wanted to like perform,
Yeah.
So once I was like 26, I was like, oh yeah, like maybe I should do that. Okay, now I found an open mic night to go to. Now I need to write songs to go play at this open mic. But I already had, 10 songs like kind of under my belt written when I moved to London. Then I was like, okay, I can play these whenever. So it's kind of like you go and hit the ground running. But yeah, I would say just like use social media for like its like original intended purpose. Like reach out to people on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and just be like, hey, like, where do you play? Are there promoters that you trust? Are there promoters that you don't trust? Because there's a lot of like, scammy kind of people that are just trying to dick you out of money out there. I mean, everywhere really, but I've ran into a few in London as well. But yeah, it's like, where do you like, is this pub cool? Like, do they listen to your music, or are you essentially the radio and you should just be playing like cover songs and stuff? It's very like situational. It's like if there's a football game on, like you're dead in the water. Like
don't even think about it.
Yeah, like don't even bother playing anything original. Like just play play the pub covers and just let them sing along and stuff, because they're locked in on the TV screen.
Right. Yeah. Don't be telling your life story while the football game's on. That's such practical advice though. I love that, because I mean, I'm all here for like just be yourself and like you'll find your community type of answer, but sometimes it really is just good to be like, no, just use Instagram, shoot the DM. You never know like who you're gonna meet, because I think when you're on the receiving end of something like that, it feels like cool in a way to be like, oh, this person like thinks trusts me in a way to like give them advice on something. Yeah. But when you're the one sending it, you might feel like you're bothering somebody, but I feel like that's usually not the case.
Yeah, I think it's easy because I'm a very big like, oh, I'm bothering this person type of guy. Like whenever I reach out to anybody for help on anything, like I'm like, oh, hey, sorry to bother you. But this one I was like, I feel like if they don't want to answer me, they just won't answer me. And then if they do, then they'll probably have good advice. So
right.
That was it was kind of like a nothing to lose kind of situation. And the original few people that I've reached out to are like my friends now, or like I would consider them friends. Like I've been to their shows, I've seen them out, like they know me now, and like that's really cool. Like it's not as hard to make friends, especially like musically, as people think, because people are always like looking for someone else to hang out with, like listen to their music and just kind of like vibe with. And I think if you just if you approach people with like a hey, like start off with, and like I didn't reach out to anybody who I didn't like their music.
Yeah,
because I didn't want
good
like,
start.
Yeah, like I don't want to be fake. So I was like, hey, I like your music. That show that you just played looked really cool. Do you mind telling me how you booked it, or like whatever? Like, are there any places that you like to play or anything like that? And that worked really well for me so far.
No, that's awesome. Just use the people around you to like, it's all community, so we can all help each other.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, there's nothing wrong with reaching out and asking questions like that. And don't be, gatekeepy either.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
especially for that's what's special about London, is that there is a ton of opportunity. Like you're not competing with other people for gigs. Like there's gigs every night of the week. Like you just have to find them, and then once you find them, they'll they kind of keep coming. Like word will spread or whatever. So like I had a few gigs where I reached out, but at least half of them were promoters or whatever reaching out to me asking me if I wanted to play, because I'd either posted something from another one or word spread from another artist that was on this one, like, hey, if you're looking for someone, there's new guy from America just came over and he's looking for gigs, like that kind of thing. But yeah, I think like London it can be a very overwhelming place because there's just so much to do, and it's a really big city as well, so you have to find certain like areas of the city where the people kind of like congregate. And I happen to find a good one in North London, so I'm happy about that. But
nice.
Yeah, I've been around like South London. I did a few. South London is a lot more like hip hop, R&B type of stuff. And then East London is kind of crazy, and West London is like posh area. That's like the old school kind of like really nice area, and there's a little bit of music over there. I haven't done too much of it, but I'm going to when we go back.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. I want to ask about Selfish, your new song. Came out yesterday, fresh, hot off the press. But you've had it written for a while now, right? At least a year.
Yeah. Well, a little bit under a year. I wrote that one. So all the songs on the album I wrote 4 before we moved over there, and then 4 after.
Okay.
So Selfish I wrote a few, like a month or 2 after we moved there. It was I wrote it with my wife, with Katie, which usually like I'll write a song and I'll go to her and I'll be like, hey, does this work? She's really good because she's not a musician, so she doesn't. I'm like, hey, what about this like chord change? It's like a cool suspended thing, and she's like, I don't care.
Yeah,
so it's like I like
so real.
Yeah, it's like the lyrics either work or they don't work or whatever.
Right.
So she doesn't get attached to like the cool major 7th chord that I put in there instead of the dominant or
but
whatever.
But it's so cool.
Yeah, I know it's sick, but she's like, if it either works or it doesn't. But yeah, Selfish, I wrote when we moved over there. We had just moved into like our first apartment. And like the whole album is really about like this kind of like conflicting feeling of like excitement and guilt that we got, like mainly me, like from moving over there, because obviously it's like a really exciting new move, like but like it's a world of opportunity, we get to travel a lot and get to just be a whole new culture, but then also like just felt bad about leaving here. Like we had worked for 2 years to kind of like help build up this like real community of people around us. And then obviously like our family is here too, but then we left. So it that's kind of what the whole thing is about. It's like, I wanted to go and kind of spread my wings and stuff like that. Not that I like outgrew Atlanta at all, but it's like, you want to go try. So we were here for 6 years. So it's like, you want to try something else. And we went, but it's like, I also feel very, very bad about that. and ended up kind of writing that song. And I don't know. It started with that kind of like finger picky groove thing in the beginning. And then I decided to make it kind of like that bouncy Sweet Home Alabama kind of groove thing towards the other half of it, just to kind of mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, I love that rhythm switch up.
Yeah,
that happens.
Yeah, but yeah, that was kind of what it was about. It was like like I'm happy and I'm excited to be on this thing, but I cannot stop thinking about friends back home or my family or whatever it happens to be. So because it's hard, we're 5 hours ahead, so you can't always talk to people in the same way.
Right.
Like I usually don't call like my parents or whatever until it's like 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. our time. So it's like we're only ever catching up kind of like at the end of the day, stuff like that. It's all just those kind of feelings were kind of all swirling around when I wrote that one.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy to think about, the fact that you're not just like an 11-hour plane ride away. You're also on different time zones, so you have to think extra hard about when you want to talk with somebody over here. I never really thought about that.
Yeah, like we have a lot of conversations that with people that were, it's like, oh, we're calling them at like 10 p.m. or whatever, and then we just go to sleep after.
Right, yeah. But I will say, from the other side of that, watching y'all make that decision to move to London, I remember your wife Katie telling me the news saying that y'all were moving to London. I was like, that's awesome. What for? Yeah. And she was like, because we fucking can. That's why. And I was like, oh shit, that's right. Like, we get so locked into the way our lives are that we just assume that these things are permanent. And it was inspiring to me to hear you guys made that decision for no reason other than because you can and because you want to.
Yeah, we had the opportunity, and I feel like a lot of American people are always like, oh, I'd love to go live abroad or whatever.
Right.
Like, so many people do that. So if we got the opportunity, we're like, oh, I guess we kind of have to do it. We might as well give it a shot. For life is short.
Right.
Try something, even if it's only for like a year or two. Like if we don't end up being able to stay, like what a cool experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the thing about those decisions is, I mean, it's not even close to like a move to London, but when I moved to Athens, from Atlanta, Athens, Georgia, that is, it's an hour and a half drive. It's nothing crazy, but you get a little nervous because you just don't really know anybody in this new town, and you don't know how it's going to be when you go there. And, you are taking a bit of a leap by moving somewhere new, no matter where it is. But the thing that did make me feel better is knowing that you can always move back at some point if you want. There's no reason that you have to stay at a certain place. I had a friend who, he lived in LA and he came to Atlanta to move to Atlanta. We were going to like live together. He was here for 4 weeks and then decided he was going to drive all the way back to LA and live there instead. I'm like, as much as that was like annoying at first, because I was like, what the hell? You've only been here for a month. But that is, at the end of the day, like, sometimes you just know, and there's no reason you can't just take a chance and see what it's like, and you can always go back to where you want to go if it's not working out for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sometimes it's good to just kind of switch up your life a little bit. Like, it doesn't always have to be like a move across the ocean, But like we had the same feeling, because we're both from Florida. And I don't really tell the people that all the time.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's so funny about people from Florida. They have such like guilt about being from Florida.
We get a bad rap,
Yeah.
All the pet alligators and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, we moved from Florida to Atlanta after college, and that was, it's only one state up, but that was a huge move for us.
Yeah.
But especially because we were like just newly minted adults as well too.
Right.
That move was harder for us, I think, than the move over to London, because London, like, now that we're kind of older, we're in like our late 20s now, we're old men and women, so it's like it didn't feel quite as scary, I guess. Like we kind of figured out like we know how to be adults and stuff. It wasn't like we weren't like just learning how to pay our bills and stuff like we were when we moved up here. But yeah, even like any move to like a new city, new place, especially if you don't know anybody, is kind of like daunting. But it is really, it was nice to have obviously like each other to kind of like lean on. Like, even if we don't have any friends, like we still are good as a unit.
Yeah, that's super helpful to have a partner in crime making a big move like that. In the last year or so, we've talked about all these big changes in the last year, but regarding your album coming out, how do you feel like over the course of your career as an artist, you've kind of changed that has led you to the place you're at now to make this album?
Well, I think the first, because I put out a few songs in like 2021, 2022. I used to be really into. They're not available now.
I took them down.
Yeah, I took them down. I used to be really into R&B and like neo soul stuff like that.
Let's go. Yeah.
And I think like I put out a few songs that were like that, and they're also like my first songs. I was just learning how to produce music and stuff like that, and how to, especially as like a vocal producer. I also didn't really know how to sing very well, so like that original like batch of songs, I was like okay, like I put it out, and I wasn't. I basically, like, over time, like I started to kind of like find my groove a little bit. I went into like a like indie rock kind of phase too as well for a little bit. But like Phoenix Two-Door Cinema Club.
Sick,
kind of
dude.
thing. Like,
What?
yeah.
Are you kidding? I want to hear those.
They're not very good, man.
I'm sure.
Well, except for like Run and Way It Goes. Like those were kind of like.
Yeah, dude. Way It Goes, one of my favorite songs of yours still.
Yeah, I mean, like I think when I started performing, that was when my sound gradually got like more acoustic, because I was writing songs originally as like a producer first, and I had no foresight into how I was going to like perform them. And I didn't really think about it because I was like, I hadn't even really performed anywhere yet. So I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to write these songs, and then, eventually I'll just have like 100,000 fans, and then I'll be performing them with a full band. Like, I didn't put any of that together in my head. So then when I started going to, like open mics and performing kind of just like by myself with an acoustic guitar, I realized I couldn't perform any of the songs that I had written previously, because they didn't translate in the same way. So I started doing it, the old fashioned way, like sitting down with an instrument and writing a song, like either like piano or guitar or whatever, so that I could perform it. And it's like, okay, if I can perform this song, get the message across, have it be like dynamic as well and interesting with just me and the acoustic guitar, then I can put drums behind it and bass behind it and stuff like that, and have it still be like a good song. And that kind of like led me into this, this era, I guess, that I'm in, where I like write a song, release it, and then I don't hate listening to it. That was like a big deal for me. What, like, because we're here in the house with James, your roommate, and he's like my biggest fan, which I love. he's the homie. But like,
shout out to James.
Shout out
James Lavender.
But yeah, like he's like playing like my songs over his like Bluetooth speaker, and I'm not like recoiling,
Yeah.
Because like any song before Dead Batteries is that was like the first, that's on the album. So I produced that and like released it a year ago, but it fits on the album, so I'm just gonna put it on there.
Right.
Any song before that, when it comes on, I'm like, turn that off. Like, this is awful. So like Dead Batteries was the first one where I wrote it like for acoustic guitar, performed it by itself, and it worked by itself. And I was really proud of the writing, and like the message, I think, comes across really well of like what I'm trying to say and stuff. And that was the first song in this like stretch of songs where like I can hear them and I'm like, yeah, this is a good song. Like, I did a good job on this one. Whereas all the ones from before, like I'm like, get this out of my headphones. Like, I can't do it.
It is funny that there seems to be an exact moment, like an exact song where things turn a new chapter, because I've felt the same thing where I mean, I don't know, I try to give myself some grace with previous songs, where I'm like, I listen back to it now and I'm like, oh well, there's definitely some things going on that I would have changed, or I don't know, like choices I made that I think were I don't know, maybe just not me. But then there was just one song that once that was written, it felt like, oh, like this feels right. And it's like a stepping stone, or maybe like a checkpoint that like you won't go hopefully past that in the reverse way. You know?
I think when I figured it out, it was definitely Dead Batteries, because it was like the production is really simple. It was like, it's only or like maybe like 5 instruments, and it's like, real drum sounds, no synthesizers. Like, I made like the choice from there. Like, I want whatever. I don't want to need like the keyboard guy with like a big rig of synthesizers or whatever just to play one song, And it's like, I just want to be able to do this with a trio like we did at the show, or with like a 4-piece with like an extra guitar player or something like that. And I wanted it all to be kind of like organic, old school type of stuff. And that felt more true to me, because it's more like the music that I really like. Because like I do really love, like Phoenix, like, and then, but if you go back to like the root of it, like the Strokes is also like, it's like that, like they have more of like a, it's 2 guitars, drum set, and a bass. Like that's it. And it rocks and it kicks ass, like that's kind of what I'm going for in any kind of, and at least in like the production style. It makes it easier to, mix as well. You don't have to like 1,000 instruments going on. And I just wanted to make it like easy for myself as well. But yeah, so then when I started doing stuff more acoustically, the kind of like southernness in the music kind of came out a little bit.
Right.
Like Anywhere, Selfish have a bit of like a twang to them, which is not something I really grew up with, but it is something I appreciate, because I'm from South Florida. I'm not from like Central Florida. Central Florida is more like Georgia, really. But
right.
Like, I'm from like New York, Florida, if that makes sense. Like retirement Central Florida.
Okay.
So like I grew up really liking the music, but I'm not like a country boy by any means. I think I pick up that kind of sound more so from being here, for a few years and meeting people who have that kind of like drawl, and I think it just kind of like ended up going that way for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to shed that. Like, I'm the same way with. Yeah. I don't listen to a whole lot of country. I've appreciated it more in the last like few years than I did growing up. But I mean, yeah, there's some songs that I just start to like lean into that without even being that consciously aware of it.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's just because I grew up in Atlanta, and not that, like you said, Atlanta's like the New York of Georgia. It's not really that southern, but at the end of the day, it's certainly more southern than Michigan or like other parts of the U.S. So
yeah, because you have like, first time I noticed it from you was I Won't Think of You. You have like that violin going in the back, and I'm like, oh, like, damn, Parker's got fiddles going on this.
Yeah,
one?
There's a banjo in there.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, and but it works. Like it sounds. Yeah. It just. I think it's also like it works well for, the kind of like sincerity that you want to put in music. Like there's something about the tone of those instruments that's very, like with slide. Like I love slide guitar, pedal steel.
Totally.
They're very emotional sounding instruments. Like they're. It's like as close as you can get to singing as like a guitar player, I guess, is doing those swells. And with the banjo, there's something like sweet in the actual like tone of the instruments that lends itself to that kind of songwriting as well. So if you want to be that kind of a songwriter and not sing about, like if you're not singing about like going to clubs and partying and stuff like that, like there's a certain, you want to have like the lyrics kind of connect with the music. And I think that Southern kind of style lends like that kind of glue with like the lyrics that I want to put through as well, because it's not like a conscious choice, because I don't really listen to country music. It's just like some of my stuff just kind of has that kind of like Southern thing to it. But I think it's because I really love like the Allman Brothers and Tom Petty and like that kind of thing, where it's like rock music, but it has a little bit of that Southern tinge underneath it. And that's kind of what I've noticed that I've been like making a lot of.
Yeah, and also it's almost like just because you're writing something that feels more either story based or like loosely story based, suddenly it's a little more country. Just because songwriting for country is like there are no frills really.
Yeah, like
there's not a lot of room for crazy big metaphors and allegories or on the other side of that, just like talking about going to the club. I mean, there's obviously pop country that can go that way, and there's obviously weirder country that can go the opposite way too. But I think by and large, the standard country songs are like pretty much no frills songwriting or lyrics at least.
Yeah.
And if you just try to take that approach naturally, you're gonna think it feels more country leaning. One thing you did kind of touch up on that I think is important to just highlight was the idea of you changing up your sound from, the slightly neo soul to the indie rock to, where you're at now, which kind of feels more like folk pop in a way, or indie folk.
Yeah.
And I think something that's important for people to think about as they start their career or start their journey as a musical artist is knowing that where you start will not be where you end up.
No.
And that can be like, there can be so much paralysis in starting because you just don't know what kind of artist you want to be or what kind of music you want to make, because you like all kinds. And it's like, you're going to change constantly. You're going to want to do something new. So don't worry about where you start, because you'll get better over time. You'll become more like yourself over time if you just keep going.
Yeah. Because I have I wrote 8 songs now that are a little bit more like folky, a little more like acoustic bass. And then I've been writing a few songs for like to follow these up that are like a lot more like rockin'. Like they're a little bit more like bluesy, a little bit more like that. Cause that's another thing that I want to do. Like there's always something to be said about going up and singing kind of like a sadder song with an acoustic guitar. But then there's sometimes you just want to rock, you want to throw a guitar solo in there. It's like, that's why I started playing guitar, so I think I'm going to develop in that way and become, I want to go, like, I want to tell people like my genre is like folk rock, I guess. Like, it's like, it goes both ways. Like it gives me the freedom to be like, I can go a little bit softer and then I can go a little bit heavier, but it's going to be more, I guess, like blues inspired kind of music. At least for now, that's where I'm going. Like the next like year after this music that I'm putting out, is going to be a little bit more like that.
Nice.
But yeah, like I'm excited to kind of see that. But I think it's just music that like, I think the important thing is that you go for music. Like you want to make music that I feel like you're more comfortable performing. As like, at least that's where I kind of like figured it out for myself. It's like, what am I comfortable performing? Because it's like, I can produce a song that sounds like, D'Angelo or whatever, but I can't sing like that, like I'm not cool like that. So so it's like, you gotta make something that feels more like true to yourself. And no matter what style it is, like if it is hip hop or if it is, folk music or whatever, like as long as you're comfortable going on stage and it feels authentic, then it's like, that's the feeling that you should run with, I think.
Totally. Yeah. That's so true. We did not talk about the album that you picked.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Usually I like to start with that, but we just jumped right in. So why don't we talk about the album you chose before we get on to the last 5, which is Bruce Springsteen's classic album.
I had to do it.
Born to Run.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
There's a lot of Bruce you could have picked.
There is.
Why don't you tell the audience your thought process going into picking this one?
So Bruce Springsteen is a big like inspiration of mine, and I had the thought in my head. I was like, am I really gonna pick Born to Run? Like, is it gonna be like shouldn't I pick something a little bit cooler or like a little bit off the, like I could be like, oh yeah, I love Bruce Springsteen, and I really love Greetings from Asbury Park. That's
right.
Like, that's his really the best album.
Yeah, the OG.
Yeah, or like oh yeah, I only listen to Nebraska actually.
Right.
But I think it's like, I have to just be honest with myself. Like Born to Run is just my favorite one. Like I think it is his best album still. But yeah, it means a lot to me, that album. So it felt weird not picking it. I guess that was the album that really kind of like snapped me out of whatever I was thinking. Because I think I made a joke on stage one time, like there comes a point in a young man's life where he discovers Bruce Springsteen, and it's like you have to hit it at the right time.
Yeah.
Like I listened to that. I had heard Springsteen's songs. My family's from New Jersey. Like they're fans of him, but like I did not listen to any of his songs or albums really intently until I for whatever reason, like one of his songs on his album came across my desk or something like that. I think it was 10th Avenue Freeze Out, like one of those.
Dude.
And I was like, let me listen. Like, I've heard about this album so many times. Like, I've never actually listened to it all the way through. And I was 22, and I was on my way to. I was living here, and I was like on my way to a job that I really didn't like. I just got here, but I was already like, I gotta get the fuck out of this town. I gotta get out of here. This place is a hellhole or whatever.
This place is killing me.
Yeah, and like I just went on Spotify and I pulled it up, and right from the beginning, like the harmonica intro to like Thunder Road.
Yeah.
And I was like, and it hit me like right in the heart, dude. I was like, oh my God, this is like the best thing. And I was obsessed with the album for like a year. I would play it start to finish all the time on like my commute to work. Cause I lived in Midtown and I worked downtown at the Hawks Arena. And so and in the morning, my commute was like an hour to get there.
Oh,
and brutal. I just listened to the album like every day either on the way home or on the way back. And it just like something about it, like the real, like the longing in the album to kind of like just get out of your current situation. And Bruce Springsteen does that in like a lot of his songs, like no matter what, it's always, even when he's lying, you know, when he's already made it, he's on Born in the USA already, and he's like, I gotta get out of this shitty apartment.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, okay, Bruce, but
yeah.
But I think the general sentiment of like I have this life and I want more from it really hits you as a young man or young woman, but like I feel like young dudes are really like more
for sure.
Like this is my guy. And I think all the songs on the album just kind of like they really kind of gutted me in that way, but I connected with them at that point in my life, and I was like ready to receive Bruce in that way.
Right. He chose you in that moment.
Yeah. Like cosmically, it was like now is the time that you can listen to Born to Run and you'll like identify with it, because I wouldn't have if I listened to it when I was like 16. I wasn't like ready to kind of like get into it yet. But also, like, I just found it to be really interesting. It's a lot more musically interesting than you think it will be. Like, there's a ton of... what I love most is, like, the intros and outros on these songs. Like, the really long intro to Thunder Road. Born to Run has a great outro. Jungleland as a whole song. Dude, it's like 9 minutes long.
Jungleland is crazy.
But, like, it's so good. There's like, just beautiful, like, there's a lot more piano than you think there's going to be on this album. I think it's Jim Steinman.
Roy Bittan?
Oh, Roy Bittan, yeah.
Isn't that his name? Yeah.
But
he's
like
a freak.
Yeah, and it's like there's just so much like the saxophone stuff, like musically, like there's a lot more. Like you see him with the guitar on the cover and you think it's just gonna be, you know, guitar rock, but and it is in a certain way, but like it has a lot of like interesting kind of like musicality to it that I didn't think it was going to. But yeah, like Jungleland kills me every time I hear it,
dude.
And,
yeah,
and like
that outro, you just like cry when he starts. Like he starts really just letting it wail.
Yeah, it's like the same thing with like the Born to Run outro, like whoa, like that whole bit. It's so good, and it's just like I get why people will flock by the stadium full to sing that with him, because it's just like you just like really really connect to it. And then all the other songs, like She's the One with like that big groove going on, and that like Buddy Guy groove to it, and then and then 10th Avenue Freeze Out, which is like
one of my favorites.
Yeah, like I don't know what the hell that means, but it's good. It's
no idea, but you feel it.
Yeah, right. And it's a good song. Like all of them, like there's just such a it's very like raw. Like it's really well produced, but it sounds raw anyway. Like with the vocal delivery and stuff that I think he kind of like loses and gains it back in certain points of his career. But yeah, man, this album, it means like the world to me, and I couldn't not pick it, because I was thinking of different albums to pick that maybe could be a little bit more like off the beaten path, but like I gotta be true to myself.
Gotta be true to yourself, dude. Yeah, you can't let Bruce down.
Yeah.
No, it's a great choice, great album. As most young guys get into them, it was because my dad introduced them to me, and he's like a huge fan. So I always associate Bruce like with my dad, which is awesome. And this album was the first one I really got into. Yeah,
it's the right one to kind of like as like the entryway.
It makes sense, and then you kind of go off onto the other ones, like, the quote unquote cooler ones, Nebraska,
Yeah.
Tunnel of Love.
Yeah, because like I like early Springsteen more so. Like I did go back and listen to, like uh Wild Innocent, East Street Shuffle, and Greetings from Asbury Park, and this one, and then Darkness on the Edge of Town. Those are like my group. After The River, I kind of fall out a little bit.
Oh, interesting.
Because like I don't really like Born in the USA all that much either.
Okay.
Although one of my favorite songs is Dancing in the Dark.
Dancing
that's
in the
on
Dark
that album.
is fantastic.
But that song I feel like could be on Born to Run, I think.
Yeah.
Except for like all the the synth work on it, but like I feel like it's same vibe as Born to Run. It has that kind of like, I gotta get out of this shit town.
Right,
I gotta get in my car and drive.
Hey, baby.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, so good. All right, Chris. Well, let's take it over to the last 5, where we're just gonna pick 5 questions out of this little bowl here, and then we'll be all wrapped up for today.
Right on, man.
I'll give it a little zhuzh here. I'll let you give it a zhuzh as well if you'd like.
Okay.
These pieces of paper look a little dingy. I'm gonna need to
Look like they've been around
to
the block.
remake some. Yeah.
Dream artist / producer to work with. Dream artist / producer to work with. This is a kind of a hard one for me because I've never worked with a producer before. I've done everything on my own just from the jump, because I'm like I think for originally it was because of like money reasons. It's like I can't afford to do that. But then once I kind of got into producing and stuff and mixing, I was like, I can pretty much do this on my own right now until I can like afford to do it with somebody else. I think like the easy one would be like, obviously like Rick Rubin. I feel like everybody says that.
Classic, yeah.
But doing something with someone like Butch Vig or something like that would be cool. But really, I mean, yeah, like really anybody. Like I would love to work with freaking like Paul McCartney, just to
be insane,
just to see like what's something like that would. There's also like there's a really good artist that I like called Tom Misch. He does more, it's like neo soul, kind of like that kind of music, but I love his music and I would love to see what he could do with something more acoustic based, like what kind of like interesting grooves and stuff that he would put on. But yeah, that's probably what I would do.
Thomas is great. It's a great answer.
Yeah.
Question number 2.
Song you wish you wrote. Name like any song. I was looking at when I was looking at the albums that you had in there, my second choice that I was gonna pick was the first Fleet Foxes album, because I really really love that album. So I would say like, I don't think the song isn't on it, but like Mykonos by them, or Ragged Wood is also like my favorite one from that album. Yeah, I picked that one, but really, like, it could be any song, like "American Girl" by Tom Petty. I would love to have written that one.
Yeah,
that's
like, so real. Just any song.
Yeah, just like any song. Like they're all good. Like all the songs that I like are it's like God, I wish I wrote that. Like recently, I had that last year that Tommy Richmond song, $1 Million Baby.
Oh yeah.
That song gets stuck in your head so much. It's such a good groove.
Total earworm.
Yeah, and I was like, that's not my style of music at all. But I was like, damn, I wish I wrote that song.
Yeah.
It's a good freaking song.
Damn.
Man.
Yeah. Shout out Tommy Richmond.
Yeah, dude.
That was a great song.
Friend of the pod.
Yeah, come on, Tommy. Get on it.
Tommy, get it together.
All right, number 3.
3 Desert Island albums. 3 is good. I would do the second Fleet Foxes album, Helplessness Blues. That's my favorite from them. That album also was like a real wake up call for me of like a kind of like acoustic music that I want to write with all the harmonies and stuff like that. And that was a big one for me. The Arctic Monkeys, Suck It and See, the 4th one.
Oh, whoa.
It's like the Forgotten album.
Yeah, the undercover favorite one.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever even listened to it.
It's great, man. It gets like no appreciation at all. Like I don't even think they like the album that much. But my favorite song of theirs, Love Is a Laser Quest, is on that album. It's such a weird song, but like the writing is like superb on that song.
Okay.
And I start to finish, I love that album. And it's like that's not even like to be cool. Like it's like, oh, I like the Forgotten Arctic Monkeys album.
Totally.
But like that's my favorite. That was the one that I like really connected with.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out.
You should, man. It's great. I think you would like it. It's really good. Like to kind of revisit it, especially after like where they're at now.
Yeah, the lounge lizard
Yeah.
stuff they got going on.
Yeah, like I think it's good to kind of go back and listen to that one, like as like the in between Humbug and AM, like you can kind of hear them pulled in both directions on that album, because I think that was when I think they still worked with Josh Homme on that one.
Oh,
So like it's kind of like a little bit of the older and then a little bit of like what's about to come for AM when they're about to blow up.
huh.
And then third album, I would probably pick Born to Run, man. Honestly, it's just like I got to get off this island.
Right. This island is killing me.
This island's too small for me. I got to get out.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, like that's probably what I would pick, man. That they would get me through, I think.
That's a good 3. You had them pretty locked in for the most part. Some people have to really rack their brains to figure out what they want to do.
Yeah, there's a few. I mean, there's a lot of albums that I consider like perfect albums. I would pick fucking Aaron Rizzo's album Anchor.
Yeah,
I love that album.
shout
dude.
out.
I listen to that all the time, start to finish. I would bring that too. That's a great album. So that's a good like honorable mention.
Yeah. Yeah, friend of the pod, Aaron Rizzo.
Yeah,
he's gonna be on The Voice, by the way.
Yeah, that's insane, dude.
So cool.
That's so
yeah,
cool.
I'm so stoked for him. Let's see, number 4.
Musical hot take. Okay, I have 2.
Oh,
Can I do 2?
absolutely, please.
Number 1, I hate ukulele.
Vibes.
I don't want to hear ukulele. If I'm not in Hawaii, I don't want to hear it.
No, I'm with you.
I hate the sound of like a ukulele plugged DI into a a speaker, and
Oh
it's
my
like
God.
it just sounds so. Like I know it has a context, but like I'm so tired of hearing like the saddest song I've ever heard strummed 3 chords on a ukulele at like an open mic night or whatever.
Yeah.
Like just play guitar. It's gonna sound better if you play guitar. I promise.
Yeah, literally. It just feels like, I don't know. I think obviously the immediate context is like somebody who's just watched like nothing but indie movies for the last like 5 years that wants to write, I don't know, some sort of Zooey Deschanel type quirky sad song.
Yeah, it's just like it's an interesting sounding instrument, but I feel like I don't like it in the context that it's used all the time. Like when you go to performances or open mics or whatever, and there's just like it's always like a younger either girl or guy playing and like whisper singing like the saddest song you've ever heard, and like that's not what ukulele's for, man. Like
No.
it's supposed to be like a fun, pretty sounding instrument that you play. Like you're supposed to be on the fucking beach so I can like listen to that. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't. I never connect with it. Whenever I see someone playing a ukulele, I tune out. I'm just like I don't want to hear it anymore.
No, 100%. I'm with you. What's the second one?
This one might ruffle some feathers, especially because of the kind of like music I make. I don't really like Bob Dylan.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's funny. You said the whole thing about Bruce, like you got to find him at a certain time.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm still waiting for my Bob Dylan moment.
Still? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be alone on this one.
No, I mean, I won't say I don't like him, but I just feel like he has not presented himself to me easily enough for me to like go down the rabbit hole.
Right.
There's one album I really like, and it's one that people don't really
one's
talk
that?
about. It's called New Morning.
I haven't even heard of it.
Yeah, but like it's him and George Harrison, obviously.
Yeah.
The song.
Wait, who's that?
Yeah, who? He did the song on what is it? What's his solo album everybody loves? The George Harrison one.
All Things Must Pass?
Yes, All Things Must Pass. There's a song, If Not For You.
Okay.
Right? Bob Dylan has If Not For You on this album.
Okay.
They wrote it together, which I didn't know.
That's cool.
So it's almost like Bob Dylan doing like a George Harrison album, which I think is why I like it.
That's cool.
He's not doing the thing that he does,
Yeah, I think like I have a complicated relationship because I like a lot of Bob Dylan's like disciples, I guess. Like,
Sure.
Like obviously Bruce Springsteen and like a lot of like the people that were like directly influenced by him. I try to listen and it does nothing for me. Like I think it's because it's like I like a few of his songs. I like maybe like 5 out of like his like 400 songs. Like that's
Right.
not a great percentage, but like
No.
I like the ones that have like real choruses to them and are more melodic. Like it's almost superficial, but like they're not like poppy enough for me.
Right.
Like I like Times They Are Changing and I really like Hurricane, like that like 7-minute song, but like it's because it has like a real hook to it, but I think everybody who's done like a cover of Bob Dylan has done it better than the original, in my opinion. I like the Joan Baez ones. I like obviously the Jimi Hendrix ones. The Rage Against the Machine cover of Maggie's Farm on their like on the album. Like I like it better. Like I don't know why. Like there's just something in it more for me, I think, than and like I understand that it's like wrong, but in a certain way, but like I feel the same way about Bob Dylan as I do about the Grateful Dead, where it's like their music, they have so much out there, it's almost like impenetrable. It feels like
that is how I feel about Grateful Dead.
Yeah, it feels like homework, and it's like I can't like I just give me like an album. Like I tried to, especially when that movie just came out,
right?
And I was like, oh, maybe, everyone's into Bob Dylan now. Maybe I should try to give him another shot. And still, just nothing.
I know, dude.
Me. I don't connect with it at all. I don't really understand why he's still like why he's out of all the ones, he's like the guy that kind of, I think it must be because of like the persona and everything.
Right.
But like, I feel like when the Beatles were more interested or more influenced by him, like I feel like they did it better. And like I don't know, there's just something about it, like I can't quite get it. But
I know, I'm kind of with you, man, and I feel alone in that, but not so much anymore.
We're brothers now.
Yeah, we are, dude. Yeah, I would love to be on the other side of that, but it's just has not clicked. I do, like you, I try to give it a shot, maybe once every other year or so, like where I really try to, go deep into it. And it's not that I don't like it. It's just that it's typically not interesting enough for me to want to keep coming back consistently.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it just doesn't. It doesn't hook me in the same way that because like again, like if he had, because like when Joan Baez does it, it's like, well, she's got a much prettier voice. The lyrics kind of come across in a different way, and obviously like Hendrix with like All Along the Watchtower and like Rolling Stone and stuff like that. Like there's so much more like musicality, I think, that comes out of it when they do the covers of it. Like I like the lyrics when they're sung by a different person or played by a different person. Like I don't know, it never did anything for me, and I feel like I may have like missed the boat. Like I might not ever
yeah, like dude, that's how I feel too. That's a great hot take.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
Thank you.
All right, last question.
Worst song / album from your favorite artist. That last Arctic Monkeys album is kind of dog shit.
The Car, yeah.
Yeah, and that's coming from me. Like I grew up with Arctic Monkeys because I learned a lot of like music taste from my brother. He's like 10 years older than me. He's 9 years older than me. So like, and he always had music playing in his room. He was really into that music. Like he loved the Strokes, Arctic Monkeys, Interpol, like music.
Yeah,
like
that whole indie sleaze.
Exactly.
Era.
Yeah. So like I grew up from the first album. Like I have listened to them like all the way through.
Wow.
They're one of my favorite bands ever. And I actually liked Tranquility Base, the one before The Car, because I thought it was like, there's like it grew on me a little bit. Like I didn't like it at first.
I think it grew on a lot of people, but people were not happy at first.
Yeah, I was very disappointed when I first heard it, and then I went back and I was like, okay, like this isn't gonna sound like Favorite Worst Nightmare, so I need to just like take it for what it is.
Right.
And I liked it. And then when The Car came out, I was like, okay, like I like the first one. I like the one before.
First song is awesome.
Yeah, I like.
There Better Be a Mirror Ball.
Yeah, that's a great tune.
That
great
song.
tune. So I was like, okay, like I'll do it. And then the songs just kind of like bleed into each other, and it just feels like a real drag to get through. And I haven't really returned to it. Like I listened to it maybe twice because it's just one of those. They're one of those bands. It's like whatever they put out, I'm going to give it a shot. Like because I really really love their music. So I was like, I'm gonna listen to it. But yeah, I there's like 2 songs on that album that I like. But
same thing here.
Yeah, but it's just like this is not a great, like I wouldn't go see that in concert at all. I'd probably fall asleep.
Right. I do really love that. There better be a mirror ball. I remember when it came out with the music video. I'm like, these boys are back. Like they're taking Tranquility Base Hotel and like making it even cooler. Yeah. But they're getting rid of some of like the psychedelic fills. And then the rest of it came out, and I was like, what? Yeah, like this just feels empty.
Yeah, Mirror Ball and Body Paint are the only 2 songs.
Body Paint, yeah.
Yeah, like that's a good song, but like because they have grooves, like they have like a real like chorus to them. Like all the other songs, they feel like one long verse or like something like that, where it's just like piano and poetry on top. And I think like his lyrics are like kind of like one of the real standout things of their music, for tracing back all the way to the first album. But I think if it's not paired with like the right music underneath, it just doesn't work. So I think the Tranquility Base was like just weird enough to offset the kind of like Lounge Lizard thing, but this one is not interesting enough musically. Like it peels the psychedelic stuff kind of away from it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I love the album cover though, I will say.
Yeah.
I think the album cover is kind of cool.
Yeah, just the car.
Just the car and the parking deck, but yeah, it doesn't save the album, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if they like triple down on it and do another album
man, for real.
Yeah, of like jazz stuff. But
part of me really would respect it. Like just
I couldn't fault them. I'd be like, yeah, fuck you, whatever.
Yeah, we're gonna do whatever the hell we want to do, and even more this time.
Yeah.
But cool, Chris Hart. That's our time on that note.
Hell yeah,
appreciate you coming on the pod. If you're still listening, make sure to come out to Eddie's Attic.
Please do.
Tuesday night, February 25th at 7 o'clock sharp. That's when we start. I appreciate you again having me on the bill, man. I'm really a fan, and I'm excited to be sharing the bill with you.
Oh yeah, man.
Also, everybody go stream Selfish and Anywhere on Spotify, your preferred streaming platform. And thanks again for coming on, man.
Thank you.
It's been a blast.
Yeah, this is cool.
On that note, with Parker Whirling.